So, check this out, people. Today I want to talk about how to become successful in your career, in your life, or in anything, right? Becoming successful is not as hard as most people think. The problem with the majority of people that they measure success with money, right? They believe that being successful means being rich. Now, of course, being successful means having money, right? Because, how else do we measure success, right? We don't measure success by how poor we are or by how little we have. We measure it by how much we have. But I measure success by how much I've accomplished in my life, right? Perfect example. I dropped out of school in the 6th grade. I started working at the age of 13. I was poor, my brothers and sisters, we all grew up in the Bronx. My mother raised us on welfare. The majority of the kids that I was growing up with were in the same position as we were, right? Now, a lot of them made a lot of money when we became older, because when you live in the ghetto, right, in the streets of the Bronx back in the 1980s, late 70s, early 80s, you go through phases, right? That's what we did. We went through phases. We were children, we had fun, we played, right? And then as we got older, because when you're living in poverty and you don't know anything else, right? You're not thinking about school. You're thinking about the new shoes, the new jacket, the new hoodie, the new coat. You want to be in style. That's how it was back in those days. And it's just like that today. That's just the way people are, right? Everybody wants more, or everybody wants what someone else has or what someone else doesn't have, right? And so a lot of my friends, they began to sell drugs when we got older, right? So by the time I was 15, a lot of my friends who were older or younger got into selling cocaine, crack cocaine, and all kinds of stuff, right? And so by the time they were 18, a lot of them were rich. They were millionaires, right? They were making hundreds of thousands of dollars a week, right? Me, on the other hand, I was working. I took a job making $4.25 an hour as a messenger in Manhattan. And so every day I'd wake up, I take the train, and I go to 26th Street in Manhattan on the west side, and then I work for SMP Graphics, which was a graphic arts shop, right? They did photography. And so I worked there as a messenger. And while all of my friends were successful, supposedly, right? Because again, the majority of people measure success with money. They don't measure success outside of that. And so I was going to work. And when I had a break in between my deliveries, I would go to the back of the shop, right? And I would watch the guys use the cameras and mix the chemistry. And I interact with them. I'd ask them questions about what these cameras were, what these lights were, these buttons were, how do you do this, how do you do that, right? And so one day, this is after a few months, maybe like 6 months of me working at the shop, one of the guys quit. He just disappeared, right? He didn't call, no show, just left. And two of the bosses were talking, right? And I heard them saying, what are we gonna do? This guy left, he just walked out. And we don't have anybody to do this job. Now me, I don't know what emboldened me at the time, but I walked up to them while they were in the middle of the conversation, and I was about 16 years old at the time. And I said to both of them, I can do it. I can do it. And Claude Thompson, who was a Jewish man from Brooklyn, who was managing the store at the time, looked at me. He said, you can do it? I said, yeah, I can do it. I've been watching them. And he said, okay, let's see what you can do. I'll give you a try. And they allowed me to do the job, and I did it. Now, these jobs, or this job wasn't a job that was just for anybody. This was a professional type of job. A lot of my friends went to college to become photographers and graphic artists, right? And so I went from making $4.25 that day. By the end of that week, my salary doubled to $8 an hour, right? And so I continued to work, and I continued to learn other things, right? And little by little, I started to expand my knowledge, my understanding of not just what I had learned with this machine, this camera, but I started to expand and learning the other machines and the other cameras, color, black and white, Intenegs, conversions, duplicates, custom transfers, you name it, I wanted to learn it, right? And so as time went on, I developed a name for myself, a reputation, where I knew that if I left that job, I could work anywhere in New York, in Manhattan, as a graphic artist, and they would hire me. I was that confident because I knew what I was doing, and I knew that I was good at what I was doing. I was good at my job. And so I didn't just do the job, but I understood the job, and I had the knowledge about the job and the clients that we were dealing with, because first I was a messenger. So I knew who the clients were. I knew what their studios looked like. I knew who had the money, who didn't, right? At that time, it was Gloria Vanderbilt. It was, and this is before Louis Vuitton and all these other people. It was, Gucci wasn't around at that time, at least not that I can remember. It may have, but we weren't dealing with them at the time. And we were dealing with a lot of music studios, right? And so I began to expand. And then I went from making $8 an hour to $15 an hour. Now, mind you, this is in the 1980s. I'm not talking about back in the beginning of the 2000s when people were happy to make $15 an hour. I was making $15 an hour back in the 80s. I would pay my rent with 1 week's paycheck and still have $200 or $300 left over to hold me over till payday. And so my friends who were selling drugs, eventually when there was the war on drugs, the majority of them went to jail. They were either killed, they were either shot, they either had to leave the game, and the majority of them today are no longer rich, are no longer successful, because they measured their success in the amount of drugs they sold and the amount of money they made selling drugs, while I, in turn, was measuring my success in the amount of knowledge, education, professionalism that I was gaining through the work experience that I was gaining while I was going to work every day. And so I began to work in different color labs in New York. I worked in one of the largest color labs in Manhattan called Dugal. I worked at Dugal downtown, their second store in Soho. I worked at SMP Graphics, which was the first lab I've ever worked for, DNL. I worked for Color Edge, right? And so, and a bunch of other places, right? Including Babu Graphics, who was an Indian man who had his own shop, right, his own lab on 28th Street on the west side between 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue, I believe, I'm not sure. And one day I was doing my job in and out of the dark room, right? This is just to give you an idea of how you become successful, because you can't measure success by how much money you have. You have to measure success in how long you can hold on to that money, where that money takes you in the end, and how successful you are when you retire at your older age, because again, the majority of my friends lost it all. Making millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars a week, selling drugs, and nothing to show for it today. When I, on the other hand, went from making $4 an hour as a 16-year-old kid to being a successful graphic artist in Manhattan. And because of that, I was able to retire at age 43 because I put into the system. And so, to give you an idea of how you become successful, right? I was working for Babu Graphics, and one day he was mopping the floor. Now, this is the owner. He's the owner of the shop. He doesn't have to be mopping anything. Every time it would rain, the basement would flood, and that's where we had all our equipment, the Calenta machine, all the enlargers, all the cameras, all the lighting, all the prints for the customers, everything was downstairs. And when it would rain, it would flood. So one day, Babu was mopping the floor. And I passed by him and I said, "Hey, how you doing, Babu?" And he said, "How you doing?" "I'm doing good," right? He greeted me, I kept walking. And then something hit me. Something hit me, and I'm glad to this day that it did, because most people would have let this opportunity pass them by. As I passed Babu and said, "How you doing?" and he greeted me back, I stopped and I turned back to him and I said, "Hey, Babu, what are you doing?" I said, "You're the owner, you're the boss. You shouldn't be doing this. Give me the mop. Let me do it." And this man was so cool and so humble. He said, "No, it's okay, I got it." I said, No, Babu, you're the boss. You shouldn't be doing this. I got it." And he thought about it for a minute, and he's like, yeah, you know what, you're right, here you go. He gave me the mop. I began to mop the floor, right? And I went about my business, I went about my day, not thinking anything of it. By the end of that week, excuse me, people, the air here in the Philippines is terrible, and my throat has been killing me. By the end of that week, I had earned an extra $100 a week. He gave me a raise, a $100 raise, just because I offered to take the mop from him and mop the floor myself. And that's how you measure success. You see, you don't become successful by being greedy. You don't become successful by stepping on other people to get to the top. You do it by being humble and understanding your place in the jungle, right? There are preys and there are predators, and I was just a prey, right? But if I wanted to move up, I had to step up my game. How? By being humble. And so by the end of that week, I had gotten a $100 raise. And I remember when Babu hired me the first time. And I think this is why he gave me the raise. I think in combination of that day and the day he hired me was the reason why he gave me that $100 raise. I'll tell you how it came about, right? When he hired me. He was interviewing me, right? Asking me questions, where I'm from, where I live, so on and so on, how much money I want to make. And when I told him how much money I expected to get a week, he was surprised. And he said to me, how do you expect to survive on that amount of money every week? Now, mind you, I told him that I was willing to take $300 less than what I would have gotten if I would have asked for the price that I'm worth. He would have paid it, because that was the starting pay back in those days. It was $700 a week. Back in the 80s, bro. Back in the 80s, okay, when the minimum wage was $4. And so I told him I'd take $400 a week. And he asked me, how are you going to survive on that? I said, I can survive on that. That's not a problem for me. I told him, you hire me, you give me a chance. Give me 3 months. And in 3 months, I'll show you who I am. I'll show you what I can do. And then, if you feel I'm worth it, you can give me the amount of money that I'm required to get for this job. And so I got the job. You see, I wanted to get hired. Making no money at home compared to making $300 less than what I would have made if I'd have asked for what I was worth. To me, the $400 a week was worth more than me making nothing at home. And I wanted to show him my worth. I wanted him to see what I was worth on his own, rather than me just beating my own horn and saying, hey, this is what I'm worth, this is what I can do. No, give me the job. I'll take it for this much. Let me show you what I'm worth, and then we can talk. And eventually, within a few months, not only was I able to get the amount of money I was worth, but I got that extra $100 just because I took the mop from the boss. And that's how you become successful in life. You can't be afraid to say, hey, I can do it. You can't be afraid to say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, let me do this. Let me take the reins. You shouldn't be doing that. The problem with us is that we want to be successful, but we want to be successful without thinking on how to get there, right? Everybody wants to make that fast buck. They don't realize that there are steps to becoming successful. When you really become successful in life, it is a type of success that no one can take from you. Nobody. It's not the type of success that if you sell drugs and you make it to the top, you're going to go to jail and lose that success. That's not success. You see, no one can take what I've accomplished from me. Nobody. That's true success. I take this to the grave. I take the monies that I earned as a young boy to the grave. I take the knowledge to the grave. I take the man that it's made me to the grave, right? I take it all the way up until I'm old and no longer here. A knowledge and experience that I can teach others and share with others. And explain to them what true success is and how to become successful. And so today, I'm living my life halfway across the world, or on the other side of the world, in Southeast Asia, enjoying what most people wish they could enjoy. Is the life that I've lived and have continued to live for some over 10 years, because I retired at age 43. Now, if that's not success, then I don't know what is. Because I'm not rich. I made more money as a young boy working back home in the US than I am retired with today. But because my success isn't measured on how much money I make, but how I make that money work for me, because money doesn't make me, I make the money. And when you know how to handle your money, you know how to convert your money, you know how to move your money around, you know how to invest it, you know how to double it, triple it. And these things don't just show up. You're not going to become rich by listening to YouTubers tell you that if you put your money in crypto, you're going to become rich. That's never going to happen. I'm telling you because I trade, so I know what I'm talking about. I'm never going to become rich trading, ever. The only people who become rich in the market are those who already got it. They were already successful before they got into the market. It takes money to make money. And if you don't have money, enough of it to invest, you're not going to make it. Don't think that investing $1,000 into crypto, AMC, GME, or whatever bullshit stock is out there is going to make you millions, because it's not. Those who make millions invest hundreds and thousands of their own money into these stocks, hundreds of thousands. And when the stock goes up 10, 20, 30%, they make millions on their investment. But you and I, we make pennies. We make pennies. And so if you don't think about your future the way I did, and if you just think about making the money any way it comes, you're going to lose yourself. You got to use common sense. You got to take the steps to get there. And if you don't take the steps to get there, you're not going to gain the experience to teach you how to hold on to that money, how to double that money, how to triple it, and how to expand it and have it so that when you need it, it's there. Because easy money ain't good money. And so this is my advice to those people who are thinking by watching YouTubers tell them that they're becoming rich by putting money into the market. The fact is that the majority of these people, 9.5 of these 10 people on YouTube that are telling you to buy into stocks are doing it out of the basement of their homes. And I'm telling you, from Southeast Asia, a man who's experienced life, who's lived it, and who's continuing to live it, retired at age 43, that they are lying to you, that that's not how life works. And so if you don't learn this, and if you don't grow up, and if you don't shut these people down and start thinking about how you can be your own man, a successful business owner, because when I retired, I was going crazy. I was going nuts. I didn't have anything to do. And within 6 months, I began working for myself. First, I became a street vendor, just like my brother. He would say to me, hey, there's a lot of money to be made here. And when I did it, I was making between $200 and $400 a day. A day. I didn't have any credit. No one would give me credit. Now, forget about it. Everybody wants to give me a new phone, a new credit card, and I'm saying no to them like they were saying no to me. Then I did other things. I became an entrepreneur. I began to provide a service in a state where I knew my services were needed, because everyone in the U.S., especially in Connecticut or upstate, where most people own their own homes, the majority of Americans own a garage and have a garage. And so I learned how to repair garage doors and how to replace the motors. And I went and I got myself some business cards. And I started to hand them out. And little by little, people started to refer me and to call me on the regular, because they liked the work I did. They liked how fast I worked. And so I was able to work outside of retirement while getting my retirement pay every month. I had an income every week, or every other day, or every day, because I got paid on the spot when my job was done. And it was a minimum of $150 per hour for me to repair a garage door. And I was done within 20 minutes. I didn't rob people, I didn't overstay, I didn't overcharge. I did my job, I got mine, and I left. I was fair, And when you're fair, you're successful. There's nothing worse than a man who has a full-time job making $700-800 a week and then steals $80 from the till, from the cash register, because he thinks he's getting over. Only an idiot would do such a thing. How do you sacrifice $700 a week for $80? For the opportunity to steal $80 from the cash register? That is the stupidest thing any man or woman could ever do. Because the opportunity is there. They take it. They try to cheat the system. They try to cheat the people that are doing them justice and are doing them right. And instead of them doing the right thing, they destroy their own lives, their own reputation, just for a few bucks. Easy, a measly, easy $80 compared to their $700-800 a week paycheck. And you see the difference between being successful and being greedy, being successful and making money. Making money doesn't make you successful. What makes you successful is how you make that money and what you do with it in the end. And so, because I was able to do the things that I did from the time I was young up until my early 40s or early 30s, because I stopped working at 39 and started getting paid by 40, by 43. And so there are ways to become successful, and you don't have to steal, take, or step on anybody to do it. All it takes is humility. And when you're humble and when you do the right thing, it's not just the money you're going to make. It's the reputation that's going to follow you. It's how people are going to call you, how people are going to refer you, how people are going to talk about you, how people are going to want you back. How I've been here in the Philippines now 1 year, and I'm still getting calls from clients, old clients back home in the U.S. And when I say to them, hey, I'm sorry, I can't work for you anymore. I'm in the Philippines now. They're begging me to come. Oh, I love the way you work. No one worked like you did. Since you repaired my garage door, it hasn't broken. Please, can you help me? And I give them other people's numbers and referrals, but they don't want anybody else. People want to deal with people who are honest, who are sincere. And when you're like that, the money will come to you whether you want it or not. The money will come to you. And so it isn't that hard to be honest and to be fair. You want to be successful in life? You want to retire at a young age? Crypto, the stock market is not the way. Unless you started doing that when you were in your early teens or early 20s investing. And I don't mean like these idiots on YouTube, these scumbags who tell you to put your money into AMC and GME and that it's going to the moon and you're going to become a millionaire. That's not investing, that's stupidity. I'm talking about people who are actually putting into stocks that pay dividends, that are in it for long term, who are investing for their future. Not doing it so they can become rich. Not doing it in hopes that they're going to hit it big like this is the lotto. That's not success. What that's going to do is become a stumbling block on what you need to do, on the things you want to do, because it's going to distract you from opening your mind for the things that actually work. It's going to distract you from those things. And so you got to keep your head right. You got to keep your mind right. You got to say to yourself, wait, what can I do where I can open a business that I can offer a service to people who actually need it? Who actually need it? And then start making business cards and putting them out there. Whether you're retired or planning to retire, but in the end, people, you got to be smart. You have to think ahead. And thinking ahead is not being greedy. It's being smart. And that's how I measure success. So, thanks for watching, people. If you like my videos, please give it a like. If not, then it's fine. I've already reached some 4,000 subscribers thanks to everyone who have been subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it. I do this for fun, people. I am not monetized on this channel. I have another channel that I'm monetized on. And so I post things on this channel just because I enjoy doing this. I just enjoy sharing the information that I have, the knowledge I have. And I hope that I'm able to reach at least one person, and this person can learn from the things that I am sharing with them. So thank you, people, for watching, and peace.